Holy moly, Paul! What do we have here?
1948 Chrysler Town & Country Woody convertible.
And what are we going to do today? What are you going to show us?
We're going to take a tour of Virginia City. We're going to see everything that's of interest to see.
You got it. Wow, look at this, folks. All right, let's go. Here's the front. Chrysler.
On to Mr. Cole. This entire street was known as Millionaires Row. Wherever you see an empty lot today, there was a house or a mansion back in the 1800s. As you can see, Mr. Cole was a pharmacist down on C Street, and apparently there was money in drugs back in those days also. And then the yellow house next to Mr. Cole's house belonged to William Sharon. William Sharon's the man who brought the Virginia and Truckee Railroad to Virginia City, and also the Bank of California. That one's not a mansion by any stretch of the imagination. However, he had his mansion in San Francisco, and this was just a place to lay his head when he was in town.
Wow. Look at that, folks. Oh, yeah.
So, this is the castle. It's called the castle because it was fashioned after a castle in Normandy, France. It belonged to Mr. Graves, who was a mine superintendent. It's also one of the oldest houses in Virginia City because this house survived the fire of 1875 that burned down 2/3 of the town. This one was built in the mid-1860s. What makes it really unusual, though, is that it's only had 3 owners in its lifetime, and everything in the house is original from the 1860s. Every time it was sold complete with furniture and fixtures. So when you go inside, the dishes are from 1865. The furniture is from 1865. Even the solid silver doorknobs are still on all the doors inside. So it was open for tours up until about 5 years ago. Now it's open occasionally, but not on a regular basis. The mine tailings. On top of the mine tailings and on the right side, there's a stone wall with some wooden posts. That's the combination shaft, and that shaft goes straight into the ground, 3,261 feet. At the time it was dug in the 1800s, it was the deepest mine shaft in the world. They call it the combination shaft because it was built in combination by 3 different mining companies. They shared the expense of digging the shaft, and then they also shared the shaft to get their ore out of the ground. The brick building here in the foreground, it's called the Mackey Mansion. It was actually the mine offices for the Golden Curry Mine, which was owned by John Mackey. John Mackey was the man who found the Big Bonanza, the richest body of ore here on the Comstock. More than $120 million of gold and silver came out of the Big Bonanza. And John Mackey, for a period of quite a few years, was making $1 million a week.
Wow.
He was the richest man in the world, the Bill Gates of the 1800s. And those are $1875. In today's dollars, it would have been billions of dollars. The Blue House over across the way is an example of one of the many boarding houses that there were here in Virginia City. Most of the miners came from Ireland and England, where they were coal miners and tin miners, and where they were making the equivalent of about 75 cents a day. If they came to Virginia City and were lucky enough to get work, they made $4 a day, which made them the richest or the highest paid miners in the world. For $4 a day, they could send half of their salary home to their family. The family would have $2 a day, which is almost 3 times what they would have had if they had stayed in England. And then they still had $2 a day to live on. $1 a day would buy you a room and board in a boarding house like that. 3 meals a day and a bed to sleep in at night. Boarding house operators, though, made more than $1 a day on the bed because they rented them in shifts. The miners worked in shifts, so they rented the beds in shifts. When one miner was working, another miner would sleep in the bed. And I don't think they changed the sheets every day either. Okay, Edie Palmer's Country Inn was the first B&B here in Virginia City. It opened up in 1948. But their claim to fame is that when the movie The Misfits was filmed with Marilyn Monroe, Clark Gable, and Montgomery Clift, part of it was filmed in Dayton, Nevada, which is just 8 miles east of here. And during the filming of the movie, Marilyn stayed here at Edie Palmer's. So you can actually rent Marilyn's room, sleep in Marilyn's bed.
Wow.
And who knows, it may even be Marilyn's mattress yet.
Excellent.
Okay. Across the street we have the 4th Ward School. It was built in 1876. It was a centennial project for Virginia City. was the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. At the time it was built, it was one of the most modern schools between St. Louis and San Francisco. What made it modern was two things. Under the windows you see those black circles. That was for ventilation. They could open and get fresh air into the classrooms for the students. And the other thing that made it modern was the fact that it had indoor plumbing. That lean-to on the left side of the building is where the bathrooms are located. But the whole concept of having toilets indoors was relatively new. So they had no direct access to the toilets from inside the classrooms. In order to go to the bathroom, they had to go outside a window on a catwalk and use the bathroom. The last remaining complete homesteads here in Virginia City. When I say complete, what I mean is not only is the original house here, but in the back you can see the horse barn and even the old outhouse is still there. It belonged to two brothers that inherited it from their parents when they died. They had some kind of family feud going on, didn't speak to each other for about 30 years, and then so it just sat empty. They finally both must have needed money at the same time. They got together long enough to sell the house, and it went on the market about the same time that we bought the Cobb Mansion up on A Street. In Truckee Railroad workshops, and that's where they were located in the 1800s. The building that's there now is not an old building, but the foundation for the old turntable is still out there, and that is where they store the steam trains and the diesel trains today. Just last summer we completed the railroad tracks down to Carson City, so you can now actually go to Carson City, get on the steam train, ride it up to Virginia City, spend the day, go back in the afternoon, or spend the night and go back the following day.